Welcome back to the Berg Podcast. Thanks for joining us today. With me today is Dan.
Hey, everybody.
And JD.
Hello.
So special guest JD from our Special Projects Division. We've gotten into the habit here lately of doing this where we like to highlight some of our folks. And so JD's the latest victim in that line of podcast special guests here. JD, we kind of had to drag JD in a little bit. He was not super excited about the idea of being on the podcast.
I went out and, we basically said like who would be the most ideal people we want to talk to. And I really thought JD was one of the first two people I wanted to talk to. And when I had a doctor's appointment that day, JD's aunt is a nurse at the doctor's office. And I told her, I was like, I'm going to try and get JD on a podcast. And she laughed at me and said there was no way JD was going to be on a podcast. So here we are. Challenge accepted. JD's here. I appreciate him coming in and having a discussion with us. We talk all the time, but to have a discussion with the podcast setup is a little different. And I appreciate JD doing it.
Yeah, and for sure. And JD's been here for a long time. He's been key to some of our growth. 7 years, right? And,
yep.
And so, recently we had the chance to celebrate some guys who've been here more than 5 years. And, as that list continues to grow, it's fun to see some of the guys who were around before me. I'm going on 7 years as well. Dan, I think you're going on 9 years.
I'm going on 9.
Yeah. And really the way our company has transitioned in that really 7 year period has been kind of wild. So guys who are here to watch the whole thing is exciting. JD's one of those guys. So let's get, JD, give us a little background on you, a little bit about who JD is.
Well, I started out as a farm kid for sure. And I have a beautiful wife and 3 kids. Enjoy spending a lot of time with them.
That's good.
That's good.
That's good. So
3 kids, boys, girls. How old?
I have a son that's 10 and a daughter that is 8 and another daughter that is 5.
So I got a funny. We got a funny story here. Brian and I both have 3, but I got a funny story. It was Nora. I think it was my 3rd. And I have the 3 girls, and Erin was pregnant, and JD was in the office, and it was when I was starting to say that like Erin was pregnant, we were going to have a 3rd, and JD made fun of me, and he said like he thought it was pretty funny that I was so crazy that I was going to have 3 that close together, and a couple weeks later, the shoe was on the other foot, and I was like, "You got to be kidding me, JD! You're making fun of me, and you're right behind me here."
Well, 3 is awesome and overwhelming at the same time, right? Because as soon as you have 3, you're outnumbered.
You got it.
Yeah, with 2, you can kind of each take 1, divide and conquer.
Yeah.
3, no longer possible.
No.
And folks who end up having like 4, 5, we live in like the heart of Amish country here, so 8, 9.
Yeah.
But
they say it gets easier, which I think is just a trick to lure you in with them. Like,
yeah, right. How is that actually possible? How does it get easier?
No, I don't buy that it's easier. And you'd have to separate them so much that you'd had some sort of like built-in daycare. But that's a real investment there. You're really getting in deep. And
I think what you're hoping for at that point is like the older ones take care of the younger ones.
Yeah. No, that would definitely not work in my scenario. They'd probably kill each other. So.
So farming background, we reference farmer mentality quite a bit in some of what we talk about. That farmer mentality, kind of work till the job gets done, from sunrise to sunset, etc. Talk a little bit. You made the transition from farming to construction. What did that look like? What interested you in construction?
Well, I had a strong opinion on, hard work pays off. Absolutely. I mean, and also the fact of you reap what you sow. I mean, if you can't produce a good crop, it's because you most likely didn't put in the work. And that's a very strong opinion to me.
Yeah, for sure. And construction is similar in a lot of ways, right? I mean, there's that, there can be that satisfaction, the almost instant gratification of turning around at the end of the day and seeing the hard work. But a lot of times you're waiting to see the results, like in farming, right?
Yeah, absolutely. But I mean, every day you can look back at a job that you're doing and say, I take a lot of pride in standing back and saying, I did that. I graded that. I took that big machine and turned that dirt and moved it and placed it and put it in different directions. And now there's a house, there's a driveway, there's a road, there's culverts, whatever that I have done. And I take a lot of pride to say that I did that.
Right. You built something worth putting your name on.
Absolutely. I want to definitely put my name on anything.
Yeah, for
Yeah.
sure.
Where did you start out, JD? When you made the jump from farming to construction, where were you?
I originally started off framing houses. I had a small company that I built houses for, and I ran actually a crew for them and determined it really wasn't the route I wanted to go. It wasn't for me. And I determined that I was going to take some time and determine what I wanted to do with my life. And I moved towards a small company, WK Frame and Son, who were willing to give me a chance that, I only had experience with, some farm equipment. I didn't really have much experience. I mean, I've ran some skid loaders and a backhoe, but I never really did any grading or digging or anything. And they gave me a chance. And I went from that to where I am today with what I was able to learn.
Yeah. Yeah. And a lot of it was just being given the opportunity to learn, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, there would have been no possible way that I could have been where I am now if somebody wasn't willing to step out and say, you know what, we're going to give this kid a chance. Let's see what he can do.
Yeah, for sure. I feel like we do a pretty good job of that here at Berg. So, one of the things we like to do is take folks and put them in an opportunity where they can learn and grow and have success. And I think you've experienced some of that. I mean, the special projects crew is a little bit of a proving grounds of sorts. You guys kind of do a bit of everything.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we're doing anything that involves a house, which makes it a little tough on our end for our new guys because they really do need to know so much. I mean, we do anything from septics to digging a foundation to backfilling that foundation to footers to grading yards to stormwater. I mean, we do it all. There's so much that we need to know on a daily basis in order to get the job done.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, one of the things we had to work on as JD came on board, especially, was I had a really bad habit of using special projects to identify people who were skilled, and they would develop some level of skill, and then we'd pull the guy and we'd say, okay, we need you to go over here. We need you on a commercial crew, on a landfill crew, on a this crew, because it was a great proving ground, as you said. But what we started to realize was all we were really doing was just undermining those crews. And I think JD was really the beginning of us saying, like, we are going to build a division, with our division idea that this is what these guys are going to do. It can be a proving ground, but we're not trying to move them out. It's not a growth model. It's, you may be able to grow within special projects, and there's certainly opportunities if you want to go somewhere else, but growth does not have to occur outside of special projects.
Right.
And we've really seen it's been probably the most amazing of the divisions in that we've been able to maintain our work ethic. We've been able to maintain our reputation, our quality, and continue to grow crews. I mean, at this point, you're running 3-4 crews, right? All
Yeah.
the time.
Yeah, we have 3 crews right now.
So, and we've gone from you being in the dirt to then you being in a machine and trying to really focus on being in the machine and bringing in people to support you, to you being a supervisor and trying to oversee a crew, and then all the way to where it is now that we're, you and I have had a discussion numerous times about how we try and set it up that you're comfortable to have other people doing the work and you overseeing it. And that's something we were honestly not able to get to with Luke Berg himself. I mean, because Luke was like one of the originals with Ford that really drove it. And one of the hardest things for Luke was to get to step back and be able to believe that he could talk to the client and sell them the product that he had guaranteed them when he wasn't the one doing it. And that's a tough step. And it's a step that we've seen, that's happened. JD has made the step now and he's been able to do it. I laugh if I show up and JD's in a machine and I'm like, usually not in a machine, usually with a shovel and someone else in a machine, but still like a little closer than I'd like it. But JD's really grown into that role and walking this interesting line where you're trying to oversee multiple crews, but also step in and help people and train. And there's a lot that goes with the role that JD's in now, which sort of hearkening back to the conversation we had with Scott Gross, it's same thing here. I realized in some meetings that I have a habit of delegating authority and promoting people and really trying to establish internal vertical growth in the company, but not actually telling everyone, just telling the key people that needed to know. Like in this case, JD needed to know what our expectations are and what his scope of work and what his responsibilities are. And let's say, Scott Gardner, the project manager and estimator for special projects, he needed to know what we were saying JD could do. But we didn't deliver that message really to everybody else. Now, I'm sure to some degree, JD and Scott have said to everybody, this is what it is. But much like the Scott Gross conversation, we never actually said it. I mean, JD is the general superintendent of special projects. JD's responsibility is everything operational that happens inside of that entire division. That's a lot of responsibility. And it wasn't something that I clearly, uh, you know, communicated to our team. So part of this I wanted to make sure I addressed was that everybody out there, listening to it from the team that hopefully listens to the podcast and enjoys hearing Brian and I talk for some reason, that they hear me say that that's what JD is. You know what I mean? JD, like Scott Gross, is responsible operationally for his entire division. And that's a lot on JD, but he's really stepped into that role. And so, maybe just talk about that for a minute, what that's been like.
It's been tough.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna lie. It is really hard for me to do that step of stepping back and saying, my guys can do this. I don't have to be the guy that does it. I have some really good guys that, all around can do it all. And it is hard for me. And I know Dan has caught me several times where he has seen me in a machine, for sure. Basically, shaking his head at me, but it's hard to do. It really is.
Well, part of it is you like doing it, right?
I love doing it. I love to stand back at the end of the day and be like, yeah, that's right. I did that. I graded that yard. I did that.
Yeah.
Look at how much we accomplished today. I love to stand back and do that. But I also need to stand back because my guys can do that too.
Right.
And I know it. I know they can do it. And they do it.
Well, and empowering those guys to do it actually gives you the freedom to sort of step back and do other things, which makes us more productive. So
absolutely. It'll give me the opportunity to step back and say, all right, like I'm no longer worried about tomorrow at 3:00 in the afternoon. I'm worried about tomorrow at 7 a.m. now. And I can take that time to make sure that tomorrow is set up the way that it should be.
Right. Yeah. So talk to me a little bit about that transition from frame to Berg. So what really what drove that change for you?
What really drove that change for me? I would have to say it was mostly because I seen a company that was growing. And unfortunately, to say where I was, I didn't see any growth coming. And I wanted more opportunities to get that growth. And I knew Ford for a long time. I actually played softball with Ford for quite a few years. And I knew what kind of person he was. So I knew he probably didn't run his company any differently. So I decided to give it a chance. And here I am today.
And that's an area where you've been able to see that some of that vertical growth, right? So the transition you came in, what did that look like when you came in here? What were your sort of day-to-day responsibilities?
My day-to-day responsibilities when I started were basically just a labor operator. I mean, it was whatever was expected.
Yep.
I mean, I do have my CDL, so unfortunately that started with a funny story, but
yeah, we can go there. So when I talked to JD and he was going to come on board, he had a CDL, and especially in special projects, anytime you got a CDL, it's super beneficial because JD, that means, can move all of the equipment. Then he has an A, he can move all the equipment, which makes it a lot easier. There's nothing better than the guy who can move the equipment and do the work. And it's not all that common to have a skilled operator with the CDL willing to do it. And JD said, listen, I don't want to get stuck in a truck because of the CDL. I know you guys got trucks. I know you're growing. I don't want to just be stuck in a truck though. And so what happened as soon as you started, JD?
well, I was told actually before I started, I had some bad news coming to me. And I was like, oh, that's not good. And he said, I have bad news, but I have good news. And it started off with, your first few weeks are going to be driving here. And I kind of looked at him like, what mistake did I just make coming here? They didn't listen to me. And I then took that, and the good news was it was a rate job. So I did get to make quite a bit of extra money doing it. It did suck, but we got through it, and they held to their word, and I really haven't been in it again.
Yeah.
So,
so you came on board.
Came on as a labor
sidetracked us.
operator. No, came on as a labor operator, but started in a truck because you could, and that's where we needed you, right?
Yep.
And then from that labor operator position, you kind of made like an informal transition to sort of what we would call a lead operator, where you were in charge of your own jobs, and at some point probably foreman level, over in charge of a crew, and it sort of happened a little organically, right? I mean,
Yeah, I mean, I kind of think I skipped the whole lead operator position. I think it kind of went straight to foreman. I was working for Dan at the time when it did happen, and he came to me and said, I got some news for you. Like, I want you to step up. And I remember a day very clearly. It was actually on a landfill job of his at Buddy's nursery. And it took some time for me to think about, because I wasn't sure if I wanted that. I don't want to say headache, but headache, it is a headache, but there's a lot of perks that go with it. And there's a lot of goodness that comes from it. And I decided to take it.
Yeah. And so that would have been like roughly 4 years ago.
I'm not sure.
It's probably about 4. Yeah, probably about 4 years ago. But
yeah, so roughly 4 years ago,
maybe 5.
And I think that your transition to sort of this general special project superintendent position sort of happened in a similar fashion as that division continued to grow. Sort of lost a little bit of the identity of what that foreman spot was like. You were managing multiple jobs, multiple crews, and at some point, we came to the conclusion here between you and Dan and Scott, like this has got to be a little more formal looking, right?
Yeah, I mean, we did kind of skip a step with that, but it was getting to the point that we were growing so much in the residential field that I realized it, and I feel everybody else really realized it, that we needed that actual project manager out on the sites every day. I mean, because we're running, anywhere between 15 to 30 jobs. And that is very difficult to do when you're sitting in a seat or you're in a trench. I mean, it's just not possible to accomplish the work / to get tomorrow going.
Yeah, it's funny how it happened, how I remember it happening with JD, I should say, because it's not necessarily how it happened, but rather how I perceived it. Was JD just naturally came to the forefront. Like, and that is not a knock on anybody in special projects, but JD took the most ownership of it. JD took the most interest in making sure it was perfect, or as close as it could be to perfect. JD he owned it. And so he just sort of naturally, he wasn't in charge of the other guys, but all the guys, out of respect for JD and out of his nature, that JD was so willing to be the one that was in charge without being in charge, just all of a sudden ended up in charge. And we just sort of allowed that to happen. And then at some point I looked at it, and Scott and I talked, and I was like, I don't even know that this is fair to JD. Like, if he's going to be in charge, he's got to be in charge. So let's make JD in charge. But it's funny because you can't make someone in charge. As I just said, that I can't make them in charge. All I wanted to do was acknowledge JD was in charge and try and reward JD and say, like, you're in charge. Like, this is your thing. Let's go. And he really latched onto that. And just as I hoped he would, he just took it and ran with it. And just in this short period, since he's actually in charge of everyone over there, we've gotten better, So it's a testament to JD. And I mean, the other day, I think I scared everybody a little bit when I said, well, how many crews do you think we could go to? We're up to 3 or 4. You think we could go to 6? And separately, Scott and JD both looked at me and were like, 6? What are you trying to do here? But it's just what I see as there's the market available there. There's the work there, and JD's doing a great job. And I think if we have the right people, I think JD could run, 5 crews. Maybe not 6. 6 is probably a stretch just because of the number of jobs that would mean that he has to oversee. But special projects, again, it's one of the trickier. Everybody makes it that it's like the small division, which we didn't call it the small division on purpose because there's not really, it's not small, A, and B, they have more jobs than everybody else. Like you go in Scott's office and Scott, Scott is meticulous. We talk about it, that he's just, everything is organized and in a perfect place. He's like, the polar opposite of how I run. And on his board, it's just job after job after job. And I'll like bust in and interrupt them every once in a while. And JD says, which one of these you want to take? And there's, 15 jobs on the board. And I'm just like, shake my head because that's a lot. That's a lot of juggling, especially in the current environment with labor issues and material issues and trucking issues. It's just the number of things that crew has to juggle and plan for each day is crazy.
Yeah, it really is.
Yeah.
JD, talk a little bit for me about as you made that transition, what were the struggles? Was there anything that stuck out to you as something you didn't expect to be challenging?
Well, my most challenging part is technology because I'm not technology. My old company, we did everything by paper and pen, and that's just the way we did it. Um, it is hard to get the daily routine going because of the way the world is right now. It I can call for a truck and Becca will tell me I don't have anybody. We've called everybody, nobody's available. Or even if I get the truck, they say, well, I don't have that stone. You're a quarry. What do you mean you don't have stone?
Right.
Or pipe. I have to go to 6 different tries before I can actually get it. And that makes it very, very difficult.
Yeah.
Very difficult.
Yeah. Two things that come to mind with that are yesterday, I think it was, I saw JD drive and I was driving one direction. He was driving the other in his pickup, which JD's pickup is purposely not meant to be overly useful, right? Like that's a fair statement. Like we on purpose, he doesn't have the headache rack. He doesn't have toolboxes. It's on purpose because if he does, JD, the person, is going to work. Like that's going to happen. So the best thing we can do is try and make it that everybody has what they need and JD can show up and help, but he's not the one holding the tools. He's not the one.
He doesn't have to get the stuff there.
He doesn't have to get the stuff there. And he had a fair amount of pipe on the truck. And I was like, wow, it's all right.
It was only about 300 feet.
But it was, but it's exactly what he spoke to. I'm sure they had a plan for that pipe to be coming from somewhere, from someone at some point, and, it doesn't get there. And then the other thing that he was talking about that came to mind was the stone. And I think I might have talked about it on the podcast, but didn't say it was JD. And JD had called me and he was just frustrated. He was like, I've been to 3 quarries trying to get this stone. And in JD's head, he heard, think of how hard it is, man, how much harder it made this, that this truck had to drive around in circles. In my head, I heard, okay, wait a minute. We wouldn't like drive to a store and like you could just call and check if they had stone. But the piece that was missing that actually makes that happen is a quarry is supposed to have stone,
right?
And it's not all that different than, when you go to the grocery store at this point and all of a sudden, like if you're there the wrong time of day, they're out of milk. Like nothing happened. There's not a milk shortage. Why are we out of milk? And that's how basic what's messing up all industries is right now is that quarries don't have stone. Asphalt plants don't have asphalt. You can go anywhere you want with it. The escalation clause on asphalt, that doesn't cover increases anymore. Yesterday, and I'm not going to call out the supplier, but we got a letter from a supplier that on Saturdays, besides their fuel escalation and besides their material increases, which are not quantified, it's based on whatever happens to be the need that day, prices on Saturday are now going to go up 35%. It was like, what? How could I possibly even bid that? I don't know if in a perfect world, we don't want to work on Saturday. So now not only did something go wrong that made us had to work on a Saturday, but somehow the material that I need to work on that Saturday now costs 35% more and I can't charge that to anyone.
Right. Yeah.
So, and yet through all that, special projects above anyone manages to continue to produce quality work at good numbers over and over again, and that speaks to his bottom to top, that division.
So, before we wrap it up here, the question I have for you, JD, is, you've been the young guy who's made the transition from frame into your role here at Berg, and two or three steps of variation in what your role has looked like here at Berg. So, for a young guy who's uh, in that spot you were in 7, 8, 9 years ago, what do you have to say to that guy?
It goes back to what we started with. I mean, I feel like hard work and dedication definitely pays off. And, and the whole reap what you sow, because if you can't stand back and say that I put the work in, and you can't stand back and say that I put the time in or the dedication, it's going to be seen that way. And that's how it's going to be reacted to. You always have to be proud of what you do too. That's a personal goal of mine with all my guys. My guys will always tell you, I want you to stand back from this job, and I want you to say, if I was paying this guy X amount of dollars to be here to do this work, would you want to come home from work and look at a yard that looks like that, or a yard that looks like this? And every one of them will answer the same exact way, that I want to come home and it looks like this. Okay, then let's make it look like that. That's how you want it to look. That's how I want it to look for when they come home from work.
Yeah, that's a great mentality.
Yeah, it is. I mean, who it reminds me of it reminds me of Ed Parrott.
Yeah.
So Ed, Ed's a solid operator. There's a couple other funny stories, an odd connection between Ed and JD with some of where they've both been. And but Ed, we always say, like, if you're going to build your own house, you call Ed, because that driveway, you could drive a bus on that driveway. It's going to be perfect. It might be expensive, but it's going to be perfect.
Right.
And that, Brian, at the core of it, that's what JD has managed to do. I think that's made him so successful, and sort of, I don't want to say pulled his guys with him, but he's certainly been one of the leaders that shows them how to do it. Is he's trying to deliver the maximum he can for what the client asked for.
Right.
Not just get by, not just get it done, but give you the best thing I can give you at what you ask. Because, I mean, at the end of the day, people pay for certain things. If you pay for rough grading, you're going to get rough grading, but it can still be the best rough grading that you can do. You know what I mean? If you want to pay for something else, then you're going to get something else. But that's really what JD has really just gotten us back to where we came from, is to be able to say that you can tell it's us. I mean, there's a lot of, we'll say Rotelli. Rotelli is a big client of ours in special projects. They do a lot of work in Chester County. I live in Chester County. JD, you're in Chester County as well. You're over the border.
Yep.
So you drive around and there's a lot of Rotelli houses. And I feel like when you see their houses, and we're the ones that did it, at the end of the day, you can see it. When I'm driving down St. Matt's Road, I mean, it took a while for those two to get that way, but I mean, it wasn't a great lot, and it needed a lot of work. It had slope, it had all these other issues. But at the end of the day, now they're starting to get, they're moved in and everything. And I feel like you can tell it was us. It wasn't somebody else. And that's not knocking anybody else. It's just our guys take it seriously. They try and make it look like they'd want their own house to look. And
they take it personal.
Yeah. They own it. And you really can't ask more than that of guys.
Yeah. No. Anything for the good of the cause, JD, before we wrap it up?
Yeah, before I wrap it up, I just want to say, like, to the younger crowd, college is a great thing, but blue collar is too. And there can be a good life and a lot of money made from blue collar if you put the time and effort in. And, if you do the whole reap what you sow, especially here with Berg, I feel like they recognize that they will see it and they will reward for it. So keep that in mind. I mean, that's what we're about here. And I strongly feel that is 100% true here. That, if you can put the time and dedication and hard work in, they're going to return the favor, I would say.
Yeah, that's great. I appreciate you saying that.
Yeah. Yeah. I appreciate it, JD. I mean, it's, I feel like lately I've been going around to a lot of the tech schools with a similar message as JD. And but it means more coming from JD, quite honestly. You know what I mean? It means more coming from Brian. You and I, we both went the college route.
Yep.
Not that college isn't fun, but I often think I don't really know what I got out of college that I practically use today. I mean, Brian, I don't know if you know this, but Brian doesn't even remember what accounting class he took. So he doesn't even know.
I'm not saying there's anything wrong with college, but college wasn't for me, for sure.
Right.
But there's definitely ways around not having to go to college or even a trade school for that matter.
Yeah. Well, and it's I think something our industry struggles with in general is a lot of folks grew up with moms and dads telling them you got to go to school because you don't want to be that guy, right? And
Absolutely.
and the reality is, well, a lot of times that guy, he's earning a great living wage. He's having success. He doesn't have college debt. He's doing things that fulfill him. He can be proud of. He can stamp his name on. And there are a lot of folks who go to college and can't say that. So
Yeah, no, for sure. Right. And JD, I wasn't knocking it. I'm being dead serious. I am a believer in that. I can lay out the math that shows you why college is only the right answer if you're going to have a certain few jobs. And if you're not, then you don't need to go to college. But on top of that, the bigger piece is you can live this world. You can live in this world without a lot of things, but there's not many people that want to live without sewer or water or a roof over their heads or a driveway to get their car in or a road to get them home. And none of those things happen if people don't just go to work and take ownership and put in the hard work over a period of time to build what this country is. It doesn't happen because of lawyers and doctors and politicians. It happens because of hardworking blue collar people who go to work every day for an honest wage. And, none of this gets done without that. So you make a great point.
well, JD, I appreciate you joining us today. That's a good place to wrap it up. Thanks for listening in, folks. We hope you join us on another episode.